All right, so today we're diving into Babygirl, a film that's, well, it's generated a lot of buzz, and we're going to try to unpack why that is.
Yeah, it's definitely a conversation starter.
It seems like, I mean, from Nicole Kidman's performance to the whole power dynamic thing, it's got a lot going on.
And it all starts with this really intense setup. You've got Romy. She's like this young intern just trying to find her footing.
Right, just starting out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, boom, there's Margot, the CEO, played by Kidman. And she becomes this like almost overwhelming presence in Romy's life.
I can already see how that could lead to some sticky situations.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And the film doesn't hold back. It goes right into those darker themes like grooming and coercion. And it does it in this really subtle way that makes you think.
Okay, so how does it do that? How does it bring those elements to the surface without being, like, super obvious about it?
Well, think about that scene where Margot invites Romy to that industry dinner. It's supposed to be this amazing opportunity.
Right, like a networking thing.
A chance to get ahead.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the film makes you question, can Romy really say no to that, given Margot's position? You know what I mean?
Right, it's like the unspoken pressure, that power dynamic that hangs in the air.
It's all about those subtle ways power can work. Not just the big dramatic stuff,
Yeah.
but the everyday pressures and expectations.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's really interesting. And it makes you think about those dynamics in your own life too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not just the scenes themselves. Even the title, Babygirl, it's provocative. It makes you think about the power dynamics right from the start.
It definitely sticks with you even before you know the whole story.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But let's talk about Margot for a second. She seems like more than just your typical Ice Queen CEO.
Right. She's definitely more complex than that.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that the film shows us her vulnerability, too.
Okay, so she's not just this, like, untouchable figure.
No, not at all.
Mhm.
We see her struggling with what society expects from a woman in her position.
Yeah.
Like she's trapped in a role she has to play.
I see what you mean. So her relationship with Romy, even though it's messed up in a lot of ways, it becomes this way for her to explore who she really is.
Exactly. It's like she's caught between two worlds, the successful CEO and this person who's yearning for something more genuine. And Kidman is amazing at showing that conflict. It's what makes her performance so captivating.
So she brings that depth to the character. That
Yeah.
makes sense. Okay, I'm already getting a picture of her in my head.
Oh, yeah. Kidman really nails it.
But we can't forget about Romy. She's a big part of this too. What stood out to you about her role?
Romy's perspective is key. She's the one who's caught in Margot's orbit. The film does a great job of showing her initial admiration. Like she sees Margot as a mentor, someone to look up to.
Great, someone she wants to be like.
Exactly. But as the relationship develops, Romy has to confront her own desires and the possible consequences of getting involved with someone like Margot.
So it's like a coming-of-age story, but with this really unique and potentially dangerous twist.
You got it. And it's through Romy that the audience experiences those blurred lines of consent. Is she really making choices freely? Or is she being swayed by Margot's power and everything that comes with it?
That's the question that hangs over the whole film. Like,
Yeah.
even if there are moments where they genuinely connect, that power imbalance changes everything.
It adds this layer of complexity.
Yeah.
You're never quite sure what to make of it.
And what I found really interesting in the analysis was that the film doesn't try to give you easy answers. It doesn't judge these characters. It just lays out their story and makes you think about what it all means.
Yeah, it leaves you with more questions than answers.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so powerful. But it's not just the acting and the story. The filmmaking itself plays a big role, too.
Right. The analysis talked about the cinematography, like the use of close-up shots.
Those close-ups, they pull you right into the character's emotions. Like in that first intimate scene between Margot and Romy, the camera focuses on their faces, and you feel like you're right there with them, trapped in the intensity of that moment.
Almost claustrophobic, like you can't escape the intensity of their emotions.
Exactly. And then they use wider shots to show how isolated both Margot and Romy feel because of the choices they make.
So it's like a visual reminder of the price they're paying, maybe even the cost of their desires.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff. And then there's the soundtrack.
Hmm.
The music is incredible at highlighting those unspoken emotions.
Mm-hmm.
There's this recurring melody that plays during Margot's lonely moments. It's haunting, almost melancholic, like it reflects her inner turmoil, that struggle between what society expects of her and what she truly desires.
Wow. So the music is giving voice to what she can't say. It's adding this whole other layer to the story. It's making me want to watch it just to hear the soundtrack. This is great.
Oh, yeah, it's a great score. It really adds to the film.
So you've talked about the performances, the story, the cinematography, and even the music. It's like Babygirl hits you on all these different levels, but it's more than just a technical masterpiece.
Right. It's a film that sparks conversations about bigger things, about
Right.
society and power and all these complex issues.
Yeah, you're right. It's not just confined to the screen. It makes you think about the world around you.
It definitely does.
The analysis talks about how the film has resonated with audiences, especially around those themes of power, desire, and consent. Why do you think that is? Why has Babygirl struck such a chord?
Well, I think part of it is that it tackles power dynamics in a way that feels really relevant today.
Okay, so it's not just about this one specific situation, it's about something bigger.
Exactly. Think about it. Power imbalances are everywhere, not just in the corporate world. They're in relationships and social structures. Even online, you see them everywhere.
So, Babygirl gives us a way to understand those dynamics, even if the context is specific to the film.
I think so. It makes you ask yourself, where else do these power imbalances exist in my life?
That's a good point. It's like a framework for thinking about these things. And then there's the theme of desire. The film explores that through both Margot and Romy's characters. It kind of challenges the idea that desire should fit into neat little boxes defined by society.
Definitely. It makes you question those norms.
Yeah. Can you talk more about that? How does the film portray desire in a way that challenges those norms?
Take Margot, for instance. She's reached the top in a male-dominated world, but she's still searching for something more, something that maybe goes against what people expect from a powerful woman. And then there's Romy. She's figuring out her own desires and attractions, trying to understand who she is in the middle of this complicated relationship.
So it's saying it's okay to question those societal rules, to figure out what you truly desire, even if it doesn't fit into those predefined categories.
You nailed it. And then, of course, there's consent that's woven throughout the whole film. Babygirl doesn't shy away from the gray areas, the subtle ways power can affect choices, even when there's genuine connection or attraction.
Right. It makes you wonder, can you really have free consent when there's a power imbalance?
That's the big question. And it's a question that matters not just for the characters, but for all of us in our own lives and relationships.
Absolutely. And that's why this film has sparked so much discussion. It's not giving you easy answers, but it is pushing us to talk about consent and boundaries and the role of power in our lives.
Exactly. It's a conversation starter.
For sure. So it's not just entertainment. It's a film that challenges us to look at ourselves and the world around us.
I think that's a great way to put it.
What an amazing testament to the power of film to make us think. But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, is there one element from the analysis that really struck you personally?
I think again. Besides everything we've already talked about, I was really fascinated by this one detail in the source material. It mentioned how the film uses a fragmented narrative structure, jumping back and forth in time.
Well, that's interesting. What do you think the purpose of that is? Why tell the story in a nonlinear way?
Well, I think it reflects how fragmented the characters' experiences are. Both Margot and Romy are dealing with broken memories, unspoken desires, and the weight of their choices. The way the film is structured mirrors that internal fragmentation. It adds another layer of complexity to their stories.
Wow, that's so clever. It's like the structure itself is commenting on the character's internal states. It's brilliant.
It is. It's one of those details that makes you appreciate the thought that went into the film.
Absolutely. But beyond the technical aspects, the film also delves into Romy's coming-of-age journey, which we haven't really discussed in detail yet. What stood out to you about her character arc?
Well, Romy's journey is fascinating because it's this coming-of-age story set against this really unusual and potentially harmful relationship. We see her evolve from someone who idolizes Margot to someone who starts to question the nature of their connection.
So she's both drawn to Margot's power and kind of repulsed by it at the same time.
Exactly. And as the film goes on, Romy begins to assert her own identity. She makes choices that prioritize her own well-being and her future, even if it means leaving Margot behind.
It shows her resilience, right? Even in this really complex relationship, she finds the strength to create her own path.
Absolutely. And it speaks to the film's refusal to paint any character as purely good or bad. Romy, like Margot, is a complex person making tough choices in a difficult situation.
It's that nuance that makes Babygirl so thought-provoking. It doesn't give you easy answers. It encourages you to consider all the different perspectives. It's not about right or wrong. It's about understanding. But for our listener who's taking all of this in, what's the one takeaway you'd want them to ponder? What's the most impactful message Babygirl conveys?
That's a great question. Let me
Yeah.
think about that for a second. It's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot going on in this film.
There really is.
Yeah.
It really is. But if I had to boil it down to one core message, I think Babygirl shows us that power dynamics are never simple. They're like this hidden thread running through everything, our relationships, our work, even our own thoughts and feelings.
So it's about seeing those dynamics clearly,
Right,
questioning those assumptions we often make.
exactly. And considering everyone's perspective, not just our own.
Because power can be both attractive and dangerous at the same time.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
It can be a source of strength, but also a way to control others.
Yeah?
And Babygirl shows us how those two sides can exist together in a single relationship.
It's like the film is holding up a mirror to society, showing us how power dynamics shape everything. And it's up to us to figure out what those reflections mean for our own lives.
Right. It's not giving us the answers. It's giving us a story, a starting point for our own conversations and reflections.
It's about asking the tough questions, not just accepting things as they are. But for our listener who's maybe now intrigued by this film, what's the one thing you'd want them to keep in mind as they watch Babygirl? What's the best lens to view this story through?
I think the most important thing is to go in with an open mind. Be willing to engage with all the complexities, and don't rush to judge the characters.
Okay, so don't try to label them as good or bad right away.
Exactly. Babygirl isn't about heroes and villains. It's about real people with flaws,
Yeah.
trying to navigate this web of power, desire, and ambition.
It's about recognizing that human relationships are messy. And the most interesting stories are often the ones that leave us with more questions than answers. This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about, and I'm curious to see how the film actually brings all of this to life.
Oh, you'll love it. It's a film that sticks with you.
I can't wait to check it out. But for our listeners, as you explore Babygirl for yourselves, here's a final thought to ponder. How does the film's exploration of power, desire, and consent resonate with your own experiences, your own relationships, and your own understanding of the world? It's a big question, but a good one to consider as we wrap up this part of our deep dive into Babygirl.
It is a big question. And I think it's one that each viewer will answer in their own way. That's part of what makes the film so powerful.
It's a film that makes you think, and that's what we love to do here, right?
Absolutely. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
It is a big question, and it's one that everyone's going to answer a little differently, I think. That's part of what makes Babygirl so compelling. But to get back to your question about what the film conveys, I think Babygirl reminds us that, well, power dynamics are rarely clear-cut.
Yeah, they're not always black and white. It's not always obvious who has the power.
Exactly. They're woven into so much of our lives, our relationships, the places we work, even our own internal struggles. The film asks us to really examine those dynamics.
To be more aware of them, and not just accept them at face value.
Right. To question our assumptions and try to see things from different perspectives.
Because power can be really seductive, but it can also be used in really harmful ways.
Yeah, exactly. It can be a source of strength and achievement, but it can also be a tool for manipulation and control. And Babygirl shows us both sides of that coin, sometimes within the same relationship.
So it's a film that makes us think about the nature of power itself, how it operates in the world and in our own lives.
Definitely. And it doesn't try to give us easy answers. It lets us draw our own conclusions and have those important conversations.
So it's not just about watching a movie, it's about engaging with these ideas and applying them to our own experiences.
Exactly. Babygirl holds up a mirror to society, reflecting those subtle ways the power dynamics shape our interactions. And it's up to us to interpret those reflections, to figure out what they mean for us.
It's a powerful reminder that film can be more than just entertainment. It can challenge us to think critically about the world around us.
For sure.
But for a listener who's now really interested in seeing Babygirl, what's the one piece of advice you'd give them? What's the best way to approach this film?
I'd say go into it with an open mind.
Yeah.
Get ready to grapple with the complexities. And don't judge the characters too quickly. Babygirl isn't about good guys and bad guys. It's about flawed people trying to figure things out in a world where power, desire, and ambition are all tangled up.
It's a reminder that relationships are rarely simple or easy.
Yeah, they're messy.
And that the best stories are often the ones that leave us with questions.
Absolutely. Questions that linger in our minds long after the movie is over.
This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about, and I'm excited to finally watch the film and see how it all comes together.
I think you'll find it a rewarding experience. It's definitely a film that stays with you.
I'm sure it will.
Well,
Well, this has been an incredible conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your insights on Babygirl.
My pleasure. Always happy to talk about film.
And to our amazing listener, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Babygirl. We hope this has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to check out this thought-provoking film. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.